They say silence is peace, but silence on a farm isn't quiet. It's ticking, it's breathing. It's the whisper of wind through wheat that hasn't been touched since he left. My husband died overseas, some war we were never a part of. He left with a flag on his shoulder and came back folded beneath one. It was just us, after that me, Clara, and little James. 3 patches, left in a family quilt, torn too soon. We lived in the bones of his legacy. The porch still creaked where he used to drink his coffee. The boots he wore sat by the back door like they'd walked themselves home. The land didn't care who plowed it. It didn't mourn him. It just waited for someone else to bleed into it. Clara would hum when she gathered eggs, her little voice like morning bird song wrapped in denim and dust. James, too small to reach the barn latch, dragged around his daddy's hammer like he was already fixing what I couldn't. We didn't have much, but what we had was real. Real dirt, real work, real love. Things you can't fake when the world forgets you. People stopped coming around after the funeral. No calls, no casseroles. Just long stretches of golden silence. And I told myself that was okay. I told myself that peace was a kind of healing. But I didn't realize we weren't alone. Peace is just the noise absence makes when it's watching you. They came walking through the field like they owned the wheat. 3 of them. Boots too clean for farm work. Smiles stretched thin across cracked teeth. The kind of men who carried emptiness the way others carry tools. They said they were passing through, that they needed water, maybe a place to rest for the night. I told them no. I said this was a house of children and sorrow. But sorrow doesn't scare monsters. It feeds them. The tallest one stepped closer and touched the porch rail like it already belonged to him. Ain't no man around to stop us, is there? And just like that, the sun stopped feeling warm. They pushed inside like wind through a broken window. Didn't raise their voices. Didn't draw blood, not yet. But they made themselves furniture. Took my table. Took my bed. Took the air and made it theirs. That night, I heard Clara cry behind the barn. James wouldn't look me in the eye. They didn't kill us. Not all at once. They peeled us back like bark, slow and splintered. They made my daughter scrub the dirt with bare hands until her fingers cracked. They laughed when James asked for food. Me? They didn't hit me. Not at first. They did worse. They made me watch. Told me this was mercy. That keeping us alive was kindness. They erased our names from our mouths and gave us silence in return. And every day the house sagged, more not from weight, but from shame. You should thank us, one said, teeth gleaming like the barrel of a rusted rifle. You could have died cold and alone. But cold and alone was heaven compared to this. They didn't break our bones first. They broke our meaning. Time stopped counting in days. It became bruises. It became hunger. It became how many times Clara didn't sing anymore. James stopped talking altogether. His eyes stayed fixed on the barn door, always waiting, always afraid it would creak open again. They never said why they stayed. Maybe they liked the power. Maybe they had nowhere else to rot. But they rotted us first. One of them started carving tally marks into the wall beside the kitchen, like we were just numbers, just passing time in his hell. They made Clara wear a dress she'd outgrown, said it made her look like she still had hope. She bled on that dress. James was kept out, back in the storm shelter. No storms came, only silence. I wasn't allowed to hold them. They said affection made us think we still had a future. And when they finally got bored, they started cleaning house. Clara went first, I remember the day because it rained. She looked up and said, "It sounds like music again, Mama." That was the last thing she ever said. They took her behind the cornfield and didn't come back for hours. When they did, they smelled like wet dirt and something sweet, rotting. They told me she'd run off, but I found her ribbon in the well the next day. James didn't last much longer. He cried at night. That was his crime. They said it made them feel watched, so they made sure he never made a sound again. I buried what was left of him beneath the broken swing. They didn't notice. They never looked down. Then it was just me. The quiet wasn't peaceful anymore. It was hollow, like a scream too tired to leave the throat. They kept me around longer, said I cleaned good and knew my place. But grief is a kind of rot, and I was already fermenting from the inside. I stopped speaking, stopped blinking, stopped being alive in the way they understood it. One night, one of them leaned down too close, his breath hot with whiskey and pride. "Ain't no one comin', lady. Ain't nobody left to miss you." And I smiled, because I knew he was wrong. There were roots in this land, deep, old, angry roots, and I was in them now. They killed me slowly, starved me, beat me, buried me half dead under the garden like I was compost. But you can't bury rage. You can only plant it. I didn't come back screaming. Screams are for the living. I came back in whispers, in rusted hinges that opened without wind, in soil that never took root again. The garden died first. Tomatoes shriveled on the vine like they knew what had been buried beneath them. Crows circled the field, but never landed. Then came the rot. They found their meat spoiled by morning, flies in their teeth, maggots in jars they never opened. The youngest one, the one who wore Clara's ribbon in his pocket, woke to find red strings tied around his wrists, tighter each night. He said he heard humming from the attic, a child's tune, broken and slow. They nailed the attic shut. It didn't help. Footsteps dragged across the ceiling while they slept. Sometimes they stopped directly above their beds. The man who buried James started coughing, said the air tasted like wet wood and iron. He hacked up dirt, then straw, then something small and white that looked a lot like a tooth. He never coughed again, because the next time he choked, not on food, not on rope, but on nothing. The air collapsed in his lungs like it remembered what he'd done. The last one, the talker, tried to leave. He made it 2 miles before the truck stalled in the middle of the road. The ignition key bent backward, the rearview mirror filled with fog. He said he saw my face in the windshield, not reflected, looking in. When he came crawling back, his skin was scratched with letters, carved not with blades, but with fingernails. Words he didn't recognize, but I did. They were names, mine, Clara's, James's, written over and over like a child trying to remember who she used to be. They tried to burn the house down. The fire wouldn't catch. The wood refused to burn, too soaked in sorrow. Instead, it burned them, not in flames, but in memory. They started forgetting how long they'd been there, forgetting why they came, forgetting each other's names. But not mine. They remembered me. They say ghosts haunt the place they died. I didn't. I haunted the place they killed in. I didn't float. I didn't whisper. I grew. In the walls, in the wood, in the dirt they defiled. I made that house my altar, and one by one, I made them pray. The ribbon keeper. He was the first to die, the one who wore my daughter's ribbon like a trophy. He used to sniff it when he thought no one was watching. I watched. I waited until the night he climbed into my bed, the one he claimed for himself. When he lay down, the mattress swallowed him. It didn't sink. It inhaled. Feathers turned to soil. Springs became ribs. The sheets wrapped around him like old skin. He clawed at the frame, but it splintered into fingers. The ribbon around his neck tightened, not like a noose, but like a mother's hand that would never let go again. When they found what was left of him, his body was full of straw, his mouth sewn shut with red thread. He'd finally learned how to be quiet. The second one was slower. He buried James like trash, didn't even say a word. So I let the earth take him. He woke one morning coughing up mud, then roots, then a small, shriveled hand. Not his own. The floor beneath him turned soft, sank, and as he scrambled to escape, the board split open like a grave that had been waiting. He fell through screaming, but the hole didn't echo, because no one hears you where he went. The next day, grass grew through the kitchen tiles, not green, red. The talker. The last one thought he could repent, thought prayers would fix the blood soaked into the wallpaper. But I don't want prayers. I want memory. And so I gave it to him. He began hearing voices in mirrors, not whispers. Please. He saw Clara brushing her hair behind him, James hiding under the table. He locked every door, but they were already inside him. He scratched at his skin, thinking something was crawling beneath. He was right. I grew inside his bones, each joint replaced by guilt, each tendon rewoven from the lies he told to sleep at night. He ran into the field, tore out his eyes, thinking it would make it stop. It didn't, because I wasn't something you saw. I was something you did. They found him kneeling in the wheat, hands folded like he was praying to the wrong god. His jaw was missing, his tongue left behind, pinned to the barn wall with Clara's ribbon through the center. The farm stands empty now, but the house hums when the wind's right. Sometimes it sings, sometimes it screams. No crops grow there, just bones, just memory. And if you walk past the fence at night, you might see red string dancing between the trees. You might smell smoke and wet soil. You might hear a child's voice say, "Mama, it's time." And somewhere beneath your feet, the land will remember what they did, and it will wait for someone else to forget.